The purpose of the Simon's Genome Diversity Project, performed by S. Malik et al., was to analyze the patterns of variation in the human genome. The human genome is the complete set of genes present in human DNA. Specifically, the researchers were looking for differences in populations' genetics that occurred after they evolved from common ancestors. Also, the researchers were interested in the impact that separation and evolution of populations has on modern human behavior. To perform the experiment, the researchers had 278 samples from 142 different populations to ensure that the experiment would accurately represent the entire human population, and they compared short sequences of DNA from the different populations. Here's an example of evolution in our daily lives. Hold on! That is not how evolution really happens. Evolution can best be described as the change in the allele frequency of a population over time. Evolution is a very complex theory that can occur through many mechanisms. Mutations is the means by which evolution was observed in this study. It is a mistake in DNA replication leading to new and different alleles that code for physical attributes. In human populations, mutations show themselves in traits like red hair, lactose tolerance in adults, and heterochromia. Alright, now let's talk about genes. Genes are a type of blue pants. Wait, not those type of genes. We meant to say genes, as in a unit of heredity that is passed from parent to offspring that determines some characteristic of the offspring. The physical expression of traits or phenotype is controlled by the alleles of the organism. The genotype of an organism can be homozygous, where its two alleles are the same, or heterozygous, where its two alleles are different. In the study, mutations would be passed down through the generations while adhering to the laws of genetics. If these traits are dominant, then they will be expressed. Otherwise, these traits would require both alleles to have the trait in order to be passed on. In this experiment, the genotypes of the participants were observed, and their heterozygosity was used to map how much divergence occurred. This chart created by the study illustrates the last common ancestor of all of the populations is believed to have lived 200,000 years ago in the top left corner of the chart. The more recent the last common ancestor between two populations occurred, the closer together they are on the chart and genetically. The different colors group the populations that are the most similar genetically and live in similar regions of the world. Typically, the colors also indicate populations that diverged from the common ancestral population at the same time and began to evolve independently. The other two parts of the figure deal with shared ancestry of humans with Neanderthals and Denisovans. The Neanderthals and Denisovan populations are in the same genus as Homo sapiens, but were a different species and do not exist anymore. Now, the second part of the figure created by the study indicates the percentage of DNA that derives from the population's Neanderthal ancestry. Clearly, the populations of Eurasia and the Americas have much larger amounts of shared ancestry with the Neanderthals than the populations of Africa do. This indicates that the Neanderthal evolved after the ancient populations migrated out of Africa, which explains why African populations derive almost zero ancestry from Neanderthals. The third and final part of the figure illustrates the similarities in DNA between the different populations and the Denisovan populations. This showcases how the populations from the Indian subcontinent and Oceania have more similar DNA to the Denisovan group than the other human populations, and the Denisovans also evolved after the ancient populations migrated out of Africa. In conclusion, the findings from this article emphasize that most of the differences in the various human populations derive from differences in cultures throughout the world, not random mutations occurring. Mutations have much less responsibility for the speedy changes in human populations in recent history than cultural differences. The experiment also unearthed the discovery that ancient African populations have the most pairwise divergence. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe to our channel.